The day my dad died, my best friend destroyed everything. I still remember the exact shade of blue in the sky when the doctor told us. Terminal. One word. So final, so cold, like an echo that didn't just bounce off the walls but stuck to the air, heavy and unforgiving. My father didn't flinch. No visible shock. No questions. Just acceptance. He nodded, like he'd known. Like maybe he'd known longer than the rest of us. I was the one who couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe that the strongest man I knew had just been handed a clock with no time left on it. But he looked at me with those calm eyes, reached across the table, and squeezed my hand. Let's not tell anyone just yet, he said. His voice was gentle, steady, too steady. I just want peace. For as long as I can still feel it. I nodded. I didn't argue, because somewhere inside me, I already knew. This wasn't just about cancer. This was about control, about dignity, about choosing the ending before it chose him. That was May. In July, he was gone. By his choice. On his terms. Euthanasia. Just the word feels like a silent scream. The kind of decision no family dreams of making, but sometimes the only kind that leaves love intact. He didn't want to suffer. Didn't want to be remembered by machines or medicine. He wanted sunlight. He wanted jazz. He wanted me to sit next to him, wearing the earrings he gave me when I graduated. We planned his goodbye the way some people plan weddings. Favorite songs. His cardigan laid out the night before. Photos of mom, framed and clean, set on the table beside him. He even left a note for the nurse, asking her to smile when she entered the room, because he didn't want tears. Not then. For those 2 months, we lived like every morning was borrowed. We had breakfast together. We played old records. We made jokes that only we understood. He told me stories I'd never heard, confessed mistakes I'd already forgiven, and reminded me, again and again, to live loudly once he was gone. He said he didn't fear death. He only feared leaving me behind in pain. I told no one at first, not because I didn't trust them, but because I couldn't yet say it out loud. If I said it, it would become real, and I wasn't ready for real. Eventually, I broke, and I told 2 people, my best friends, Sarah and Mira. We were the kind of trio people envied, the kind that shared everything, vacations, secrets, even baby names. We knew each other's patterns like we knew our own. Sarah was the loud one, the loyal one, or so I thought. Mira was the calm in every storm. I told them over coffee, hands shaking, voice cracking, and I made one request. Please don't tell anyone. They both nodded. Of course. Obviously. We're your people. We've got you. I remember Sarah reaching across the table and holding my hand. I won't tell a soul, she said, and I believed her, because why wouldn't I? I specifically asked them not to tell her. Rachel. Even saying her name felt like inviting something toxic into the room. Rachel wasn't just another person. She was the one who once spread lies about my relationship, told people I cheated when I hadn't. She was the one who shared details about my miscarriage in a group thread. The one who smiled at me in public and tore me apart in private. She had a gift for knowing your weakness and performing as if she never noticed it. A manipulator. A reputation destroyer. Someone I had spent years keeping at arm's length for survival. If there was anyone in the world I didn't want holding a piece of my grief, it was her. And Sarah knew that. July came. Dad chose a Thursday. He said he liked Thursdays. He said they felt hopeful. Far from the chaos of Mondays, not as distracted as Fridays. The kind of day that gave you time to breathe. The sun was out. His favorite jazz was playing. He wore his cardigan. I wore mascara that didn't run. I tested it. We said goodbye with his hand in mine. It was the most painful, peaceful thing I've ever done. When I stepped out of that hospital, I felt hollow. Not empty, just stretched. Like I'd left parts of myself behind in that room and didn't know how to walk without them. The sunlight didn't match the mood. The cars kept moving. The world didn't pause. And then my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Hey, I need to tell you something before you hear it from someone else. My stomach dropped. I opened the message, expecting, I don't even know what I expected. A condolence? A sweet memory of my dad? Anything but what I read next. I told Josh and Rachel. I didn't think it was a big deal. She already knew anyway. I stood there, holding my dead father's sweater, reading the betrayal in black and white. I felt heat rise in my chest, not anger, something colder, something older, like a betrayal that had waited its turn. She already knew anyway. No, she didn't. She couldn't have. There was no way. Unless the person I had trusted most had handed her my pain like it was gossip. I didn't cry. Not then. Not when I called Sarah. She answered on the second ring. I didn't even say hello. I just said, you told her? She paused, just enough to confirm what I already knew. Well, she kind of already knew. I didn't say much. I just mentioned it. I waited for the words that would heal, for the apology, for the moment she'd say, I messed up. It didn't come. Instead, she said, I was just venting. You know I didn't mean anything by it. Venting. Like my father's death was a pressure she needed to release from her chest. I hung up. That night, I sat in the dark, my father's sweater in my lap, my phone lighting up with message after message from the woman who had just shattered my trust. But I wasn't reading them anymore. I was staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone who claimed to love me could hand my most fragile moment to someone I had begged her to avoid. I didn't lose just my dad that day. I lost a friendship I thought was solid, a foundation I thought was strong. I realized that when some people say, I've got you, they mean, as long as it's convenient. And in that moment, I knew everything had changed. I didn't sleep the night he died. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his smile, that soft, knowing smile he gave me before the final injection, and then I'd see Sarah's message again. I told Josh and Rachel, like it was nothing, like it was just a slip, like she hadn't just handed my pain to the one person I explicitly asked her not to. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, my dad's sweater clutched in both hands. It still smelled like him, like lavender and old coffee. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just kept replaying every moment from that hospital room, and every word Sarah had ever said to me about loyalty. At 4:42 a.m., I called her. She picked up like she hadn't just detonated a bomb inside my world. Hey, you okay? That question, you okay? I almost laughed. Was that sarcasm? Was she genuinely clueless? You told her, I said. No emotion, just fact. There was a pause. I heard her shift in bed, sheets rustling, a sigh. I mean, yeah, but but I didn't go into details. She already kind of knew anyway. She didn't. She said she suspected something. No, Sarah, she didn't. And even if she had, it wasn't your story to confirm. She got defensive fast. I was venting. I didn't mean anything by it. God, I didn't think you'd freak out like this. Freak out. That's what she called it. I didn't answer. I didn't trust what might come out of my mouth if I did. I've been here for you, okay? She continued. I've been showing up. I've been texting. I've been supportive. This is really unfair. Supportive. I could have listed the times I dropped everything for her. When her mom died, I stayed up with her for 72 hours straight. When her fiancé left, I helped her hide the engagement photos before her family saw. When she lost her job, I paid her car payment even when I was behind on mine. I could have reminded her of the thousands of "I'm so sorry" messages I'd sent her over the years, even when the mistake wasn't mine. But she had never said it back. Not once. Not for the time she laughed about my miscarriage in front of Mira. Not for when she skipped my baby shower last minute and sent a $5 gift card like it was an apology. Not even now. That call ended with me saying the one sentence I'd never said to her before: "You're not safe for me." And I hung up. The funeral came 2 days later. It was small. My dad didn't want anything elaborate. He always said he hated when people used grief as performance. "I want truth," he told me once, "not sympathy." Still, I dressed in black, pressed the crease in my dress 3 times, did my makeup with steady hands and no tears. I thought maybe, just maybe, the girls would show up for me like we had for each other before. When Sarah's mom died, we held her hand the entire service. Mira made sure she drank water. I organized food for the guests. We didn't leave her side. When Mira lost her grandfather, we stayed afterward and helped clean the chairs. We drove her home, sat on her couch, watched her fall asleep with her head in my lap. But when the final words were spoken at my dad's funeral, I stepped outside and looked around. No one was there. Not Sarah, not Mira, not anyone from our circle. Just empty sidewalk, parked cars, muffled shoes fading into distance. They had left, without a word, without a hug, without a glance. It took everything in me not to crumble right there. My aunt walked past me with red eyes. A coworker nodded gently. My cousin offered a stiff side hug before rushing off to pick up her kid. But my friends, the ones who had promised to carry me through anything, gone. I sat in my car for 45 minutes after, just sitting. The silence was unbearable. At one point, I opened our group chat, still active, still buzzing. Memes, outfit polls, brunch plans for next week. Not a single message about the funeral, not a "thinking of you," not even a fake sorry. And that's when it really hit me. This wasn't about grief anymore. This was about abandonment. This was about realizing I had spent years pouring love into friendships that couldn't hold it. I was disposable, useful when needed, funny when convenient, but heavy, in pain, needing too much. That night, Sarah texted again. "You okay? You've been quiet, like I'd just been busy, not burying my father, not watching my support system vanish like smoke." She added a second message. "I didn't mean to make you feel like I wasn't there for you." Still no apology, still no ownership, just guilt dodging. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Then I left the group chat. I didn't say a word, just hit leave and tossed my phone on the bed. Mira called the next day. I didn't pick up. She sent a message. "Sarah says you're upset. What happened?" I didn't answer, because if she didn't already know, then maybe she'd never really seen me at all. I was grieving my father, but I was also grieving the version of friendship I thought I had. The kind where people show up, the kind where pain is witnessed, not avoided, the kind where one betrayal feels like an accident, not a reveal. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? A reveal of who they really were, of what I really meant to them. Later that week, I was at the grocery store when I saw Sarah. She was in the produce section, picking out avocados like nothing had happened. She saw me, paused, smiled like we just bumped into each other on a normal day. I froze. She started walking toward me. I turned around, left my cart, walked straight out. I sat in my car and sobbed for 20 minutes, not because I missed her, but because that smile was proof she didn't miss me. Grief is a strange thing. Some days it whispers, other days it roars, and sometimes it just sits with you, quiet, heavy, refusing to leave. After the funeral, everything felt slower, quieter, too quiet. I'd wake up before my alarm, unsure where I was, reach over to the empty side of the bed where Dad used to call me early in the morning just to say, "Did you eat yet?" My phone didn't ring anymore, except for Sarah's messages. Still trying, still pretending nothing really happened. "You okay? Still not talking to me? I was trying to be there for you. Don't shut me out like this." Not once did she say sorry. That's what kept breaking me. Not the betrayal, not the funeral silence, not even the loneliness. It was the fact that even in the aftermath, she refused to see the damage. Like I was overreacting. Like my pain was just another personality quirk she didn't have the patience for. Grief changes people, but so does betrayal. When they happen at the same time, it fractures you. Suddenly you don't recognize yourself anymore. I stopped replying to messages. Not just theirs, everyone's. People sent flowers, cards, thinking of you, texts. I didn't open most of them. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted someone to sit next to me in silence and just let it hurt. No advice, no fixing. Just someone to say, "I see it, I see you." But that never came. The nights were the hardest. Everything was still. No distractions, no tasks to bury myself in. Just me, the echo of Dad's voice, and the growing awareness that I had no one to call who would really understand. Not anymore. Not since Sarah. Not since Mira faded into silence like a witness too scared to speak. They both knew. They both knew what Rachel had done to me in the past. They knew she wasn't safe. Knew how deeply she'd hurt me before. more. And still, my name ended up in her mouth. I started noticing little things. People in our community suddenly acting like they knew something. Soft eyes, pity smiles, over-explaining, overcompensating. One mom from school hugged me too long in the parking lot and whispered, "You're so strong. I don't know how you're doing it." I hadn't told her anything, but Rachel had been at the last PTA meeting. That's how grief starts to feel like exposure. Like walking through life with no skin, just open wounds, while everyone watches but says nothing. Our kids go to the same school, same daycare. Every morning was a gamble. Would I see her? Would I see them? Would Sarah try to smile like nothing happened? Would Mira wave from across the hall, pretending she didn't stand in silence when I was abandoned at my father's funeral? Sometimes I'd see Sarah's car in the drop-off line. She'd always look straight ahead, avoid eye contact, like if she didn't acknowledge me, she could rewrite what happened. I'd duck my head, walk faster, heart pounding like I was being chased, by memory, by shame, by grief that wasn't mine to carry. I started avoiding school events, didn't go to the parent meetings, skipped birthday parties, stopped replying to group invites. I couldn't risk sitting across from them, couldn't handle the fake cheer, the pretend normalcy. And the worst part? No one followed up. No one asked why I wasn't there. No one said, "We missed you." I disappeared, and they let me. One afternoon, I found an old voice memo from my dad. I didn't remember saving it. It was short, just 30 seconds. He was laughing at something. I don't even remember what. And then he said, "You've always been too forgiving. That's your strength, and your weakness. But one day, you'll learn when it's okay to stop carrying people who don't carry you back." I sat on the floor for over an hour after that, just holding my phone, just crying. Because maybe this was that day. For weeks, Sarah kept texting. She never said the words, not once. It was always, "I didn't mean to. You know I'd never hurt you. This has gone too far. Let's just go back to how things were." Go back to what? To pretending? To bending myself into forgiveness she never earned? I didn't reply, because I finally realized, this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a pattern. 20 years of friendship, and not once had she apologized. Not when she embarrassed me at my own wedding by making a speech about herself. Not when she shared photos of my pregnancy before I announced it. Not when she made a joke about my miscarriage in front of her boyfriend. Not when she chose Rachel, again, even after I asked her not to. This wasn't one mistake. It was the final reveal. She was never sorry. Because people like her don't believe they're wrong. They believe you're sensitive, dramatic, overreacting. They use your pain as proof of their innocence. And I was tired. Tired of being the one who always gave more. Tired of holding space for people who didn't know how to hold me back. Tired of making excuses for people who never asked me to, because they never noticed they needed to. I was grieving my dad, but I was also grieving the version of myself that believed people would show up if I showed up first. The version of me that believed in loyalty, in reciprocity, in friendship that didn't dissolve when things got too heavy. Healing didn't come quickly. Some nights, I still cried. Some mornings, I still reached for my phone before remembering there was no message coming. But something started to shift. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. I started going for walks without music. Started drinking my coffee before it got cold. Started lighting the candle my dad gave me last Christmas and letting it burn until it filled the room. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want apologies. I just wanted peace. And maybe that's when it started to come. Not all at once, but slowly, like breath after drowning. There's a certain shift that happens when you stop waiting for an apology. At first, it feels like surrender, like giving up on justice, like walking away before you've been heard. But later, if you're quiet enough, it starts to feel like peace. Because the truth is, I didn't need her to say sorry. Not anymore. What I needed was to stop bleeding in places she kept cutting open. I hadn't seen Sarah face to face since the grocery store, since the moment she smiled at me like we hadn't just silently ended a 20-year friendship. But one Saturday morning, as I walked into the daycare parking lot, there she was, leaning against her car, waiting. She straightened when she saw me. She was dressed like she always was, effortless, curated, perfect, a coffee cup in one hand, sunglasses in the other, and something in her expression that I couldn't quite place. Not guilt, not regret, but something close to discomfort, like maybe she knew this wouldn't go her way. I slowed, just slightly. She stepped forward. "Hey." I didn't respond. She sighed, the kind of sigh people use when they want to seem burdened by a conflict they cause. "Can we talk?" Still, I said nothing. She tilted her head, lips pursed. "Are you really gonna keep ignoring me forever?" I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in 2 decades, I saw someone I didn't recognize. She wasn't my friend, not anymore. Maybe never, because friends don't hand your grief to enemies. They don't ghost you at your father's funeral. They don't make your pain about their discomfort. And they definitely don't stand in front of you months later, still expecting you to make it easy. I met her eyes, and calmly said, "I don't owe you anything." Her jaw tightened. "You're being really unfair." There it was again, that word, unfair, as if fairness was owed to her, as if she had been the one left alone in a funeral parking lot, as if she had been the one betrayed. "I carried you through things you don't even remember," I said, "and the one time I asked for privacy, you gave it away." Her mouth opened, then closed. No words, no defense, because finally, there was nothing left to say. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow, and that was the real ending. Not the betrayal, not the texts, not the funeral, but that moment, when she stood there with nothing left to argue, and I walked away with nothing left to lose. A few days later, Mira called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, soft, hesitant, careful. "I should have stood up for you. I saw everything. I knew, and I was scared of losing the group, so I stayed quiet, and I hate that about myself. I don't expect anything. I'm sorry." It was the first real apology I'd heard heard from anyone. And strangely, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel relief either. I just felt done, like I didn't need to fight anymore. I texted her back later that night. Thank you. That meant something. And that was it. No bridge rebuilt. No friendship rekindled. Just a soft landing instead of a crash. Sometimes, that's enough. Over the next few weeks, I began to reclaim small pieces of myself. Not in dramatic ways. Not in some grand transformation montage. But in little choices. I went to the bookstore by myself and bought novels I used to love before everything got heavy. I made my dad's favorite lasagna. Burned the edges, just like he used to. I cleaned out the closet and finally, gently, folded away the cardigan I'd clung to since July. It didn't smell like him anymore, but it still held something sacred. I placed it in a keepsake box, beside the last note he wrote me. Just 5 words. You're stronger than you know. One afternoon, I drove past Rachel's house. Not on purpose. I was taking a new route home from work, trying to change my routines, trying to breathe in different air. And there she was, on her front lawn, laughing, hosting some kind of gathering. From across the street, she looked like the same woman she always had. Charming, perfect, untouchable. And for a second, I felt that old wave of injustice. How can people who cause so much pain walk around untouched? But then I remembered something. People like her live in performance. They are always acting, always calculating, always trying to win a game that no one else is playing. And I had stopped playing. I didn't need everyone to know the truth. I just needed to stop pretending it didn't matter. Weeks passed, then months. Grief became quieter, still heavy, but less sharp, like waves pulling back instead of crashing forward. I missed my dad every day, but the pain no longer swallowed me. It sat beside me. It taught me. It warned me who not to trust again. One morning, I found myself sitting in the same cafe where I first told Sarah and Mira about my dad's diagnosis. Same table, same corner window. Same chipped coffee mug, but everything else was different. I was different. I wasn't waiting for someone to show up and make it right. I wasn't scanning the door hoping for a text. I wasn't holding my breath. I was just breathing. Finally, and in that stillness, I understood something important. Closure doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like you not answering the phone, not correcting the story, not shrinking yourself anymore. Sometimes closure is just peace in the knowledge that you saw the truth and chose to walk away anyway. There's a moment in grief no one tells you about. The moment where you're no longer crying every day, but you still don't recognize yourself in the mirror. You're functioning, you're showing up, you're checking the boxes of being alive, but you feel like someone pressed pause on your soul. That was me, weeks after the confrontation with Sarah, months after my father's funeral, and what felt like a lifetime after I'd last believed anyone was really in my corner. I'd been moving through life like a ghost, parenting on autopilot, smiling when I needed to, nodding at conversations I barely processed. People said I looked strong, said I was doing amazing, but strength, I've learned, is often just survival in disguise, and surviving doesn't mean healing. One night, I sat on the floor of my closet with a box I hadn't touched since the funeral. Inside, his watch, his cologne, a wrinkled photo of us from a camping trip when I was 10, and underneath it all, the sealed letter. He'd written it a week before he passed. He gave it to the nurse, asked her to deliver it when she's ready. I hadn't been ready, not until then. I opened it slowly. The paper was soft, edges creased from being handled carefully, maybe by the nurse, maybe by me. Every time I thought about reading it, his handwriting, familiar and steady. My girl, if you're reading this, then you've made it through the part one couldn't. You're standing where I knew I couldn't follow, and I'm proud of you for getting here. I don't have advice. You already know what to do. You've always known. You've just needed permission to trust yourself. So here it is. Whatever feels heavy, you can let it go. Whatever makes you doubt your worth, release it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. Some people will never deserve to know your heart, but you still deserve to keep it whole. I read it 3 times, and then once more out loud. His voice echoed in my mind, calm, clear, always anchoring. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just slept. For the first time in months, I slept without nightmares. The next morning, I made a list, not of tasks, not of goals, but of boundaries. Real ones. Not the kind you set in theory but abandon when someone gets upset. I wrote, I don't respond to disrespect. I don't justify silence. I don't explain grief. I don't perform friendship. I don't chase closure. I don't bleed to keep people comfortable. I don't keep people just because we share history. And then, I made another list, shorter this time. Things that make me feel like myself again. Mornings without my phone. My daughter's laugh when she forgets I'm watching. Wind on my face with the windows down. Cooking something I loved as a kid. Wearing lipstick for no reason. Saying no, and meaning it. Letting go of people who made me feel invisible. Sarah never tried again after the last encounter. No more texts, no calls, just digital silence. And strangely, that silence didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt like space. Space I had reclaimed. Mira sent a card in the mail. No long message. Just, I'm rooting for your peace. Always. I didn't respond, but I kept the card. Because some things don't need reciprocation, only acknowledgement. The biggest change came slowly. I started saying what I felt, even when it was messy. To people at work, to my sister, to myself. No more, I'm fine, when I wasn't. No more laughing at jokes that made me feel small. No more folding myself in half to make room for people who never learned how to sit with grief. One afternoon, standing in line at a bookstore, I ran into someone who used to be part of our group. Not close, just one of those fringe friends, always there, but never really present. She looked surprised to see me. Oh, hey, she said, you look good, like, lighter. I smiled. Thanks. She hesitated. I heard about everything. I didn't know what to say. That's okay, I replied. Most people didn't. There was a pause. You know, Sarah really thought you'd come around. I looked at her. Calm, steady, done. She thought wrong. And that was it. I paid for my book, left the store, and realized I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't grieving the friendship anymore, because I'd stopped treating its death like a failure. It wasn't. It was a release. I never posted about it. Never made some grand declaration online. No cryptic Instagram captions. No passive-aggressive tweets. Just distance, quiet, peace. Grief never left. It just changed shape. Sometimes it shows up when I hear a song he loved. Sometimes it's in the way my daughter tilts her head when she's thinking, just like he used to. Sometimes it's soft. Sometimes it still stings. But it's never lonely anymore, because now I know how to hold myself through it. My therapist once asked me what I would have said to Sarah if she had ever truly apologized. If she had called me and owned it. If she had said, I messed up. I broke your trust. I'm sorry. And I thought about that. What would I say? Would I forgive her? Would I cry? Would I let her back in? And the truth? I would have thanked her and then let her go anyway. Because growth isn't just about healing with people. It's about healing, even when they don't stay. It had been almost a year since the day he left. Since the day she betrayed me. Since the version of my life that I thought was stable vanished. So much had changed. And yet, that quiet ache in my chest, the one that always followed me home, still lingered. But it was different now. Not sharp, not destructive, just familiar. Like an old photograph you can finally look at without crying. On a rainy afternoon in early spring, I decided to visit my father's grave for the first time since the funeral. I wasn't avoiding it. I just wasn't ready. Because something about grief that no one prepares you for is this. The grave isn't where you miss them most. You miss them in parking lots, in songs, in old coffee mugs and voice notes. In the middle of a joke you forget to finish because they're not there to laugh. But still, I needed to go. Not for him. For me. I brought two things with me. His cardigan, and the letter. I didn't say much when I got there. Didn't rehearse a speech. Didn't try to be poetic. I just sat on the grass, pulled his sweater tight around my shoulders, and let the wind say everything I couldn't. The sky was gray. The air smelled like rain and quiet and something soft I couldn't name. I closed my eyes and whispered, you were right about everything. I stayed for almost an hour. No one came. No one interrupted. Just me, the trees, the wind, and the man who taught me how to fight with kindness and walk away with grace. Before I left, I placed the letter back into the keepsake box, and beside it, I left a single folded piece of paper. My own letter. It only said one thing. I finally stopped bleeding for people who never brought a bandage. You would have been proud. On the way home, I played his favorite jazz song, the same one that had filled the room when he left. I rolled down the windows, let the wind hit my face, and for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel heavy. Sarah still lives nearby. We haven't spoken. We won't. Mira reached out once more, said she was working on herself. I wished her well. No resentment, no open tabs, just peace. The group chat we used to have, gone. The photos, archived. The memories, still there, but quiet now. No longer screaming, no longer defining. People ask if I'd ever forgive Sarah, and here's what I've learned. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about letting yourself out of the loop, out of the pain, out of the waiting. So yes, I forgive her, from far away, from this new life she'll never be part of, from the version of me she never bothered to really know. I still talk to my dad sometimes, out loud, in the car, when I'm cooking, when I hear something I know would have made him laugh. I like to think he's still listening, not hovering, just nearby, watching, proud. Still my anchor, even in the silence. I used to think grief was a thing to conquer, but now, I understand, it's a thing you carry, like a scar that doesn't hurt anymore, but still reminds you of how far you've come. Every year on the anniversary of his passing, I light a candle, play that jazz song, and write one sentence in my journal. This year's sentence, I am no longer holding the hands that let go of mine, and that feels like freedom.